Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you had a great weekend. We had a bit of a family emergency. So yesterday, if you were tuning in hoping for a new episode of Computer America, unfortunately, we had to do a best of. But hey, everything is everything's getting taken care of, and we are happy that you were able to join us today. And hey, welcome into the show. I hope you all had a great weekend. You had a great Monday, and you are ready for some Computer America. So obviously, a couple of things. The very first thing is that today normally is, yes, the first Tuesday of the month, and that is special here on the show because that means it is traditionally Gamer Tuesday. But hey, our regular correspondent, Corey Gallagher, he actually has some personal appointments to keep himself. So we should be doing a full Gamer Tuesday this Thursday. So in 2 days, we'll do a full Gamer Tuesday with Corey Gallagher, assuming everything works out. And hey, it'll be a lot of fun. So check out that today, full hour computer and technology news. I know it's your guys' favorite segment, so don't worry about it. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about. A lot has been happening over the past weekend, so we're going to tackle the most pressing. And hey, we have some interesting, cool, different kinds of stories here as well. So before we get started, computeramerica.com, that is our website. If you want to know anything about our show, you can, of course, check us out at our website. And there you'll also find the show notes. We'll have the social media contest up and running here shortly. We're talking with Logitech, trying to work that out, see what's going to happen. And yeah, and also the live video feed, which you can also find at twitch.tv/computeramerica. All that and more at our website. And okay, I think in the meantime, we're just going to go ahead, jump right into it. And again, full hour computer and technology news. And don't worry, lots of variety here. It's going to be a fun time. So why don't we go ahead and get started with the news? And this is, of course, brought to you by Computer America. Until, hey, someone listening feels like sponsoring, there you go, Computer America. But hey, brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, so I think for our first story that we're going to do, this one was actually, kind of pointed out to me, like, not to brag, but I was aware of it. And then, one of the friends of the show, he's been on the show a couple of times, and and he sent it to me to kind of point out and said, this is the problem with cryptocurrency. And I thought, you know what, people love nothing more than to talk about cryptocurrency. So I decided this is going to be the right topic for today to kind of start out with. And this is a pretty big story. If you are Canadian and you are in the cryptocurrency market, you are undoubtedly aware of this one, but it affects a lot of people. That's right. And in a not so very Canadian way, a a coin exchange, and we'll talk about what an exchange is, but a coin exchange has filed for protection from people who are undoubtedly going to sue them. They filed for creditor protection, and because they somehow, and there's a bit of intrigue in here, but they lost access to $190 million. That's right, $190 million in cryptocurrency that supposedly, and this is where all the kind of mystery comes in, and this happened a couple days ago. Clearly, I think a lot of people have kind of picked up on this, but just make sure everyone here is aware. I guess they had one guy who was in charge of making sure that all the cryptocurrency was safe, because obviously when you have access to $190 million of untraceable, easily stolen cryptocurrency, you don't want that password getting into too many people's hands. And the guy who did it, well, he unfortunately passed away. And that left the firm that he was working with to have to file for protection, because now no one, because it was simply that one guy, no one has access to the $190 million in cryptocurrency. So they said that this was the troubled Canadian crypto exchange, Quadriga CX, owes its customers $190 million and cannot access most of the funds, and that is according to a court filing obtained by CoinDesk. And that's where we're getting this from. This is from the website CoinDesk and Mr. Nicholas D. And this is pretty crazy. So sworn affidavit, January 31st, Nova Scotia Supreme Court, they identified as the widow and the person who filed it was the widow of Quadriga CX founder Gerald Cotton, said that the exchange owes its customers roughly 250 million Canadian dollars, or a free little conversion here for you, 190 million US, in both cryptocurrency and in fiat. Man, the company previously announced it had filed for creditor protection on its website, but the filing itself provides greater details about the predicament. And like I said, a friend of the show sent this to us and said this is the problem with cryptocurrency, and obviously the innate protections that cryptocurrency affords you, such as being, if everything is taken care of correctly, if something is safe, password protected, you have a private key that is very, that's completely hidden, or maybe you have it stored in wallets that are completely offline, no way to get access to them. If that one person who is supposedly, the only person to have access to $190 million worth of assets, if that person were to keel over, get hit by a car, have a sudden heart attack, have a stroke, an embolism, the infinite ways that a person can unfortunately pass from this earth, then you are suddenly out that much. This would be akin to Bank of America, and I'm not wishing any bank owner or anything like that happens, but this would be akin to the CEO of one of the large banks suddenly dying, and the entire bank just has to close up shop and say, okay, all of you are out of money. Sorry to hear that. Please don't sue us. And the widow has to kind of clean up this mess. So they said that the exchange holds roughly 26,500 Bitcoin, which you can see over there on the video portion if you're looking. He said that one Bitcoin is currently worth about $3,400. So when they have about 26,500 Bitcoins valued at about $3,400 each, comes out to about $92 million in Bitcoin alone. 1,100 Bitcoin Cash, which is the fork off of Bitcoin, 1,100 Bitcoin Cash SV, another one, 3,500 Bitcoin Gold, another one, and essentially a bunch of other coins that value anywhere from like 6 million to 50 million. And all that together comes to about $147 million in cryptocurrency that can no longer be accessed. They said that it's not clear what portion of the exchange crypto holdings were kept in cold storage versus its hot wallet. So a hot wallet, let's just continue with the article here. Again, the person who filed it, Jennifer Robertson, who is again the widow who unfortunately passed, signed in the affidavit that only a minimal amount of coins were stored in the hot wallet, but the specifics were not provided. And the reason for that is that cold storage would be something like an offline one, or one stored on a hard drive that would be completely inaccessible, because if it's your job to keep track of this much money, you want to make sure it's as secure as possible, and you don't want to keep that in a wallet or even in an exchange that has so many possibilities to go wrong. And yeah, there we go. So the founder seemingly had sole control or knowledge of Quadriga's cold storage solution, and saying that Quadriga's inventory of cryptocurrency has become unavailable and some of it may be lost. Now, here's the thing. We're going to try to pick through the article for some other details, but here's the thing. A lot of people are very suspicious, because when you talk about $200 million worth of crypto, you suddenly realize that is a life-changing amount of money. And this is not the first time we have seen exchanges, and I promised to explain what an exchange was. An exchange is a place that you go to exchange Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency for USD or any other fiat currency. And yeah, exchange is just the marketplace that you go to, sell or buy cryptocurrency and trade it for, different forms of money. And we've seen these exchanges be targets of hacks. And in some cases, these hacks had to, they led to a lot of stolen, cryptocurrency, where then the founders or the people running it had to then recoup the cost themselves. And the point is that these exchanges are a very popular way to commit fraud in the crypto world, because where better to hit all these transactions other than the place where all the transactions happen. Now, so far I don't know anyone who's really claiming that this person didn't actually die. Unfortunately, that seems to be a pretty constant way to go about it. But there's also the possibility that the widow knows the locations of the hard drives of any kind of passwords, maybe wrote them down in case he was ever, compromised. And beyond that, so if she just said, hey, it's all lost, it's all in cold storage, no one knows where it is, and no one can access it, then everyone has to walk away. She can file for court protection and, wait a sufficient amount of time. And thanks to the untrackable, untraceable, uncensorable qualities of cryptocurrency, she can pull those out at her convenience and be set for many lifetimes. Now, the other part is that people like to keep track of wallets. Wallets are places where you keep your cryptocurrency, and they're public. Unlike a bank, imagine like a bank account, but everyone and anyone can see what's inside your bank account. You can claim that you have $90 million worth of Bitcoin, but people would go out and look for your exact amount of the exact amount of Bitcoin that you claim to have. Look for any wallets that would match those properties. And then they would try to either hack you, corroborate you. They would, see that you're telling the truth. And the point is, a lot of people have claimed that that this exchange, which had claimed again $190 million worth of assets, was nowhere near that. They were trying to build themselves up as something much, much bigger than they actually were. And this is kind of one way for the widow to, kind of get out from under it, is that this exchange just wasn't really being run that effectively either. So the whole court filing, they have it embedded here on the website if anyone would be so bored to flip through a 14-page affidavit. But there you go. And yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and drop that one there. But I did find that one interesting. And again, to the friend of the show that sent this in, this saying that this is the problem with cryptocurrency, and it's definitely a problem. Is that you can't trust a lot of people because, let's say you're in an institution like a bank or something like that with traditional fiat currency, you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people around the world all working with banks, money transfers, so on and so forth, checking, rechecking, triple checking to make sure that money gets to the right place at the right time and gets there efficiently. You can't really do that with cryptocurrency, because with cryptocurrency, it cannot be revoked. And don't get me wrong, there are some coins that work much like traditional fiat would, that you could do that. But the cryptocurrency that has taken hold in a lot of people's minds is that kind of non-refundable. Once you make a transfer, once it's in a wallet, it's yours. No one can argue with it, and that's that. You just can't do that with things like Bitcoin So a couple of things wrong here. Only one person had access to so many funds. That's a problem. The next problem is that these exchanges, they are rather difficult to kind of say that these exchanges are going to be around forever. Like, you can't just go down to Western Union and request a Bitcoin transfer. No, you have to kind of trust that these new 5 to 10 year old entities are going to continue to be around and either hold your coin or properly process your transaction. There's a lot of guesswork involved here. So there you go. A very interesting story. I know it happened a couple days ago, but definitely wanted to mention it on the show. Okay, there's that one. And why don't we go ahead and talk about the next one, which is the Super Bowl. Hey, I know that a lot of people out there definitely most likely watched the Super Bowl. I was busy. What was I doing? Probably napping. I was busy doing something very pressing and important, so I was not able to watch the Super Bowl. But looks like I am in some kind of good company, because while I think some people didn't watch it on TV, but I'm in bad company because streaming has been up. And this is a trend that we want to keep a close eye on. One of the biggest television events of the year. Super Bowl traditionally draws really one of the biggest audiences, like short of, something like the presidential inauguration or something like that. Short of something like that, the Super Bowl is like the program of the year. And when you see, and of course, a lot of factors can go into it, such as what teams are playing, such as, other kind of hype around the game. That can certainly affect viewership. But viewership is what we care about right now, because we're looking at a trend of viewership versus streaming when it comes to TV versus internet. And Super Bowl 53 may have been the lowest scoring of all time, but its streaming numbers were higher than ever. And that's an important point. Streaming television is, we kind of feel we have been transitioning, such as here on Computer America. Still, of course, hey, everyone listening to us on the IRA network, love you. But we are also making sure that we are available on as many streaming, live streaming, and, podcasting services. The internet is, kind of the way of the future. And so we're trying to make ourselves available in both places at once, but internet is definitely the way to go. And looks like television, this is another data point. This is not conclusive. This is not to say that this is the year that traditional television is dead. Sorry. But this is a data point to consider. Viewers tuned into the action across 7.5 million devices, up 20% from 2018, and consumed more than 560 million minutes of live game coverage. Folks, that's a lot of football. That's a lot of commercials, and increased 19% from last year, according to CBS. The average minute audience of 2.6 million also witnessed a year-over-year spike of 31%. Pretty cool. Where ultimately cord cutters helped offset falling TV and cable viewership figures, which may explain why CBS included the digital tally in its reporting. Yeah, because I think that's what we're going to be seeing year over year, is that television viewership is going to be going down. And I'm not saying by 1% here, 0.8% there, 1.3% year over year. It's going to happen. And it means that television, until it reaches that breaking point where you can't afford to make the programming you currently can, but until you hit that breaking point, you run into, streaming television are going to be kind of copacetic, and eventually one's going to take over the other completely. They said that the overall number of people who tuned in across TV and streaming was just over 100 million people. That's right, 100.7 million people tuned in. And they noticed that was a dip from the biggest live event of the year, which is down from about 111 million. So about 10 million fewer people tuned in for the Super Bowl as opposed to last year. And that according to Nielsen, if anyone wanted to put a name to it. The coverage also provided a big boost for CBS streaming services. CBS All Access breaking single-day records across the board, unique viewers up 46%, and subscriber signups jumped 84%, and time across all platforms rose 76%. This is the important part. If there's something worth watching, if there is, if there's content worth devouring, and you give people a clear-cut way to make it happen. And I'm not even saying order DirecTV and then get the NFL Live Football Pass and then get the Super Supreme this thing or the other, but it does include the Super Bowl. So you have to get the special Super Bowl tickets and blah, blah, blah. If you just make a clear cut saying, hey, if you subscribe to CBS, we will let you watch the Super Bowl. That is the recipe that Netflix has proven is successful. Make it easy, make it convenient, charge a decent price. It doesn't have to be the cheapest price in the world, but it has to be commensurate with what you're viewing. And next thing you know, hey, people are going to tune in. So very, very cool. Streaming. Hey, like I said, this does not prove the end of television, as you can see here by the numbers. And this is something that I think a lot of people really need to pay attention to. So 7.5 million devices, and that doesn't say anything about viewership. Obviously you could have a party of 8 watching one device, but 7 million devices, as opposed to 100 million people on television and streaming. So there's a lot of wiggle room there where you can see traditional television is still very much the dominant player, but it's not growing as much as streaming is. So that's the important point to take away here. Okay, and hey, as much as I would love to, I cannot speak at all to any sporting event or anything about football. So unfortunately, go teams. Okay, there's that one. Lots of different stories here. Why don't we go ahead and have a fun story? So this one's a bit different. Definitely like the picture that Ars Technica was able to throw in with this one. Seals. You know them? Seals. So they're giant, smelly things. If you've never met a seal, consider yourself lucky. They are loud, they are smelly because all they eat is fish, and they really don't care about it. But turns out they also eat something else, and this is pretty cool. Well, pretty humorous anyways. So this is from Ars Technica, although I think the original story, this is from the National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research. Volunteers working with the organization and so on and so forth. They, and adorable apparently, researchers find working USB drive in seal poop. That's right. And I guess the important part here is not so much that, a seal ate some garbage, which a non-working USB drive would be, but a USB drive that still works was found in poop. there you go. They said that it turns out that USB thumb drives can survive the voyage through a leopard seal, and there you go. Researchers in New Zealand are looking for the owner of a USB drive that was discovered in a frozen seal turd, specifically that of an Antarctic leopard seal. And they said that they found the frozen matter in November 2017, and when it comes to see what the leopard seals had for dinner, they're thawed and then sifted through. You can put it under the cold tap, get all the gross stuff out, smush it around, and separate the bones, feathers, seaweed, and other stuff. Essentially, they were looking for the diet of what these things eat. And as it turns out, well, an unusual object was found. After determining it was a USB drive, the undigested hardware was allowed to dry off for a few weeks at room temperature. After plugging the stick into a computer, how fun would that be to find a USB stick and rinse it off, clean it off so it's no longer, found where it was found, and just like knowing that, hey, one day I'm going to plug that into my computer. Weeks go by and you go, all right, time to plug in the seal poop USB. And after plugging the stick into the computer, the volunteers discovered that the contents were still intact. They were the treasure map to the world's last known pirate holdout. What a place to hide it. No one would have ever thought to look in the Antarctic leopard seal stomach and digestive tract. No, okay, it's not a treasure map. There were pictures of sea lions on a beach and a video of a female sea lion and her pup in the water, so one can only assume these were family photos that the seal had taken. The video also provided the only clue about the former owner of the thumb drive, the nose of a blue kayak seen in the video, which, and we're out there watching the video portion, we're going to go ahead and play the video. Yeah, you can hear it playing kind of softly in the background and see the seals that they were kind of videotaping. But the video also provides, there you go. So if you lost a thumb drive on a beautiful New Zealand beach and thought you'd never see it again, then you may be in luck. And researchers would be happy to hand the drive over to the original owner, ideally in exchange for some fresh materials to study. After all, the more we can find out about these creatures, the more we can ensure that we can look after them. So, yeah, there you go. That's the end of the video. Someone had themselves a nice little vacation in New Zealand, and I guess they unfortunately lost, or something like that, and the seal was able to pick it up and eat it because seals are curious animals. And there you go. So I thought that was a pretty cool story. Fairly cute. So there's that story, and let's see, we have time to just kind of introduce one more story. Okay, how about another interesting one? I think we can actually wrap this up before everything happens. So we all know about the moon. It's this big thing in the sky. Sometimes it's really bright, sometimes it's not. And I'm not going to go into what actually causes the phases of the moon because I found that is a losing battle to explain to people. But here's a different side of the moon you may not have seen. And if you're watching the video portion, highly suggest that you kind of take a look at the pictures of this article. But at the same time, if not, you can go check it out. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. Now, here's the thing. This is a Chinese satellite, and if you don't recall, China sent a rover to the dark side of the moon. That's right, they sent one to the back side of the moon that we never see because obviously the moon is orbitally locked or whatever, tidally locked, whatever it's called, where we only ever see one side of the moon. The moon never rotates, so we get to see another side, and therefore we are now seeing one of the first images of the backside of the moon. And no butt crack. So that's good. Instead, we're greeted with this haunting kind of picture here, and this is from their Twitter feed. We're just gonna, we're gonna like that. So this is the image, and you can kind of see it here if you're just listening to my voice. It's obviously the backside of the moon. In kind of the background, lower right hand corner, you see a blue marble. That blue marble is of course the Earth, and the backside of the moon, surprise, surprise, looks a lot like the front side, just a lot darker and a lot dimmer. So you can see it there. This is the photo of Earth and the lunar far side. Maybe our best ever was taken yesterday by the Chinese lunar satellite DSLWP-B. So there you go. I don't think we're going to go into this anymore, but it's always fun to see when other countries and other people do things that, hey, it's not all about NASA. Other people have these programs that they're working with, and I think we all benefit from getting to see great images like these and great research that they're doing. So very cool, China. Now, when we come back, more computer and technology news. We have a lot of different stories, including everything from Waymo to the Mayo Clinic to T-Mobile. Everyone, we'll be right back right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And for anyone out there just joining us, we're doing computer and technology news the whole hour. I know it's Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, and that is traditionally our Gamer Tuesday segment. But unfortunately, our correspondent had something to do. So, personal appointments to keep. So, hey, this Thursday, in 2 days, we will be doing a full Gamer Tuesday on Thursday. And it'll be a great segment, but in the meantime, here we are. So it's been a lot of interesting stories. If you want to hear all about how seals and USB interplay, or the backside of the moon, or the problem with cryptocurrency, things like that, there's a lot of meat in the first segment for you. But we continue on. Second segment, if you miss any part, check out the podcast wherever podcasts are heard. Search Computer America. We should pop right up, and you can listen to us on the go. Now, with that being said, and everyone out there listening to us on IRN right now or at twitch.tv, thank you for tuning in. Okay, so today our next story that we're going to do, and we have quite a few of them, but why don't we go ahead and talk about... certain members of my family, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, Kidney stones are an unfortunate reality. They happen all the time, and if you are, I guess if it's like your first time developing them, then it can be like a real shock. But after a while, you start to say, oh, another one, great. And this is where this article comes in and how technology and kidney stones meet. Well, the Mayo Clinic created an online tool for predicting kidney stones. And all you have to do is take your webcam and shove it no, I'm kidding. You don't put it anywhere. But kidney stones and, a calculator that can predict the odds that you'll have a recurring issue. So, obviously, online tools, if you... let's see, like there's like online calculators, like if you're trying to lose weight and you want to know your body mass index, there are calculators all over the place that will tell you your body fat percentage, even without ever having to step on a scale. There are a lot of tools out there for things like finances. So why not an online calculator that can tell you if you're going to have another kidney stone? This is where, again, researchers at the Mayo Clinic have created a handy tool for public use that can help determine if you will have a recurring problem with kidney stones. And by the way, anyone out there who wants to go check it out, you can, of course, go to QXMD. And so this is calculate by QXMD. So QXMD/calculate. And you can see all the different areas here that they have. So the category for this one happens to be ROKS, ROKS. I'm sure that you could Google something along the lines of, I can't imagine there are many kidney stone calculators out there. So either check the show notes or Google kidney stone calculator, and I bet you it would pop right up. Now, the online calculator uses a number of factors about a person's lifestyle and health history to determine if they are at risk for the issue again after experiencing it once. So this is not for people who have never had one. This is for people who have had one and probably had some kind of medical workup about it. And then you can punch in all the information available to you, and this calculator would then say, hey, there's a high likelihood you will have another stone. The product of the researchers' work is called the Recurrence of Kidney Stones, or ROKS model. And while it was first developed in 2014, its capabilities have been expanded. They said that ROKS was only capable of determining the likelihood of a second stone. Now the tool can predict the odds of the stone becoming a recurring problem for the person. So not just once more, but on a regular basis. The researcher uses information with more than 3,000 first-time kidney sufferers who have been treated at the Mayo Clinic. And of course, then some of those patients suffered ongoing instances of kidney stones. And essentially they're saying, if you match a lot of the same criteria as, some of these other 3,000 people who have been treated at the Mayo Clinic, then, hey, there's... They said that, let's say there's a 0.5% chance. It's essentially the same as it's the same chance as, let's say, 1.0 and perfectly predictive. So 0.7 is considered to be a good model. So ROKS falls just short. Still, it's better than nothing. So it's not gospel. This is something that's free, available online, available to anyone, and something that you could probably say after your first one, maybe you go here and you say, what about this? This is what we mean when we talk about data. This is a calculator compiled with data from 3,000 first-time kidney sufferers. Now imagine if you were to expand that data pool to every kidney stone sufferer who could put their data into this calculator. And if it's your first time having one, you get to compare yourself to, let's say, tens of millions of people and say, here's my age, here's my weight, here's my height, here's my kidney stone composition, here's my family history of whatever. And it can say, instead of just 3,000, tens of millions, it could say you have a 0.8% chance or 0.8 or 80% chance that you will see another kidney stone in the next couple of years. this is the promise of data in medicine. It's just figuring out how to do this in a convenient and safe and secure way, because you don't want people's medical history being lost. That's something that's very private and immutable. Your medical history can never be changed. And if you lose it, that's a big problem. So there you go. I thought that was interesting. Another way that data seems to be driving how we will be caring for people in the future, but I digress. Okay, so that one, another quick story, and this having to do for anyone out there who is currently using a, oh my God, what are these things called? Why do I keep wanting to say telescope? The thing with the needle points to magnetic north. Compass. It's a compass. Wow. Why didn't you guys help me with that one? So it's a compass, and for anyone out there who's currently using a compass, you may notice there's a slight flicker off to the right or left, depending on where you are. I guess it's all relative. Now, this has to do with the fact that magnetic north is not actually true north. There is not a giant magnet directly in the center of all those beautiful globes that you see. No, magnetic north changes all the time. And fun watching you flounder. Hey, I don't want to fish. So anyways, magnetic north changes all the time. And these shifts, they are closely monitored because they help with everything from GPS to tracking location. You need to have a very accurate map of the magnetosphere and just what these magnetic fields happen to be doing. Enter this strange movement, which I guess they were predicting, but they were not predicting this early. The magnetic field that surrounds our planet is constantly shifting, as we just mentioned. By the way, this coming to us from The Verge, saying that, but recently, near the Arctic, it's been so active that researchers had to release a crucial update to a computer model that allows maps and other navigation software to correctly point north. Because, hey, you can't trust it. They said that it was delayed until Monday due to the recent U.S. government shutdown. Wow, what a catastrophe. Now, unlike the geographic North Pole, which stays put at the top of the globe, the North Magnetic Pole, well, it moves. And historically, it does so at a fairly steady rate. And lately, though, it's moved about 31 miles, 50 kilometers for anyone out there not in America, 31 miles per year. And since compasses were invented hundreds of years ago, we've used the magnetic field to navigate with compasses pointing generally north. Because, hey, if you're just trying to get north, 31 miles, left or right, drifting slightly, that's not really going to throw you off all that much. And especially if you use other forms of navigation, then hey, what is 31 miles between friends? Now, as the magnetic North Pole moves away from the geographic North Pole, figuring out where you are in the world becomes a lot harder. That's right. You have to rely on something else, maybe Google Maps. And they said that the pole moved maybe 600 miles between 1900 and 1990. So you could see where, they said that it moves, 30 miles a year, and this is over 90 years, moved about about 600 miles, which is pretty right. And here we go. It's also moved about 1,000 kilometers. So again, another 100 or 600 miles between the late 90s and today. So it's really sped up. In about 20 years, it's moved as much as it has in about 100 years. And a global geomagnetic field modeler for the British Geological Survey who worked on this update to the World Magnetic Model. Skipping ahead because this article is actually rather lengthy, but we're going to go ahead and skip ahead, saying that data from all these observatories were incorporated into the update. A calculator based on the model was released in January by the British Geological Survey, but the American rollout of the same model was delayed again to the government shutdown. Now, the updated model is online and publicly accessible. It is expected to stay accurate through the end of 2019, at which point the regular scheduled update will be valid from 2020 to 2025. Though this particular out-of-cycle update is unprecedented, researchers say there's no cause for alarm. That's right, we don't have to conserve magnetism. All of you can keep your fridge doors closed or whatever use of magnets you have in your life. Saying that don't panic, the magnetic field does change, and we've seen it change unexpectedly and quickly before. This is something that we know. It's not something that we understand how it works, but we are aware that it happens. Yes, much like magnets themselves. I like it. There you go. And very, very interesting, just something to keep note of. I don't think that a lot of you are using magnets, but maybe if you are a migratory bird, this will affect you much more greatly. Now, our next story, and this has to do with what AT&T is trying to do. And I really want to hammer the point home, try to get in as much as possible, especially because this is rolling out with the newest update. And by update, I mean the newest update, iOS 12.2. If you have an iPhone, this will be coming to a phone near you. And this is a problem because AT&T is still clinging to their misleading 5Ge indicator. Now, 5G, we've talked about on the show before. This has something to do with the speeds and data rate. Essentially, we all know what happened with 4G to 4G LTE. Well, I guess data rates have improved, network improvements, and we're a bit better than 4G LTE currently, but we are nowhere near actual 5G. But AT&T, probably through more of a marketing standpoint, wanted to capitalize and say that they were one of the first to, and looks like we're having a little problem here. Hopefully they'll connect right back up here in just a moment. But let's see. So, yep, hopefully that hooks up there. All right, so anyways, AT&T, they're clinging to the 5Ge indicator where it comes to 4G iPhones in iOS 12 and iOS 12.2. AT&T, misleading 5Ge network indicator will be rolled out. AT&T customers who installed the second beta of iOS 12.2 are noticing their phones displaying a 5Ge connection at AT&T's network. There you go. And that was reported to Mac Rumors. 9to5Mac and other news sites provided details on the change, and people on Twitter posted screenshots of the 5Ge indicator, which if you're watching the video portion, you can see it right there. Okay, we should be back up and running. But yeah, you can see the image right there, 5Ge, right there where 4G would be. Of course, here's the thing. There's no 5G iPhone yet. No iPhone currently on the market that can be bought or sold is currently equipped with the antennas needed for 5G. So the 5Ge that they're promising, and again, the E is kind of minimized where the 5G is much, much bigger. As if you could kind of ignore the E and just notice the 5G. The E stands for 5G evolution. Means that 5G is coming, but it's not here yet. And it's actually 4G LTE, albeit with advanced features like 4x4 MIMO, which is multi-input, multi-output. Another technology we've heard about. It helps networks better handle priority when it comes to device. Let's say you have a ton of devices connecting to the same network and using up the same bandwidth. 4x4 MIMO helps these networks prioritize the traffic better, so everything moves more quickly. So it's 4G LTE better, but it's not 5G whatsoever. But AT&T says, hey, this qualifies enough that we can at least market it as 5G LTE. 5Ge. 5G evolution is now live in over 400 markets with more to come, and soon our most popular smartphones will display 5Ge indicator to let you know when 5G evolution coverage is available, and that is again coming from the company. AT&T is the only carrier using a 5G label for its 4G network. Good move, because this seems like something that AT&T could definitely get sued for. Now, and of course, as AT&T said, 5G evolution is our first step on the road to 5G. Now, real AT&T 5G should be coming next year. And here's the thing. There's already been rumors about it. I think that the new Samsung phone has already announced that it will be including 5G hardware, network antennas and things like that in their smartphones. 5G routers are already on the way. 5G iPhone should be out next year. 5G iPads should be out next year. But as of this moment, there was no 5G network anywhere. AT&T, Verizon, and all these other companies have been implementing the 5G network, but that does not mean that any devices out there can currently utilize it. So, yeah, AT&T is being a little duplicitous here with their naming scheme, and a lot of other phone companies have been quick to kind of pounce and kind of say that this is not right what AT&T is doing, but again, I think this is not one from the technical side of AT&T. This is not one from the R&D side of AT&T saying, hey, you really need to make it clear that this is 5G. I think this is from the marketing standpoint. And in fact, I recall at CES, I had heard stories that the AT&T booth, the booth that they had set up there at the show, actually had a gaggle, like tons of people coming over to see the world's first 5G smartphone. And even though it was just an iPhone with a 5G, kind of thing, 5G indicator at the top of the phone, and people were browsing on it saying, wow, look how super quick this thing is. And at the same time, wasn't even 5G. So, I just want to make sure that story gets out there as much as possible because it is a little misleading and want to stay on top of it. Now, lots more stories, not enough time to get to them all. Let's talk about the FCC. Let's get you a little angry and then we will calm you down with one more story from Microsoft. But let's get you all enraged with the FCC, saying that FCC loses bid to cut tribal broadband subsidies. And I guess the angry part here is that why would they even do that? Well, I don't claim to be an expert on the woes of the tribal population in the United States. I know that they are really hurting for some basic necessities, such as internet and running water and a lot of support. They need a lot, and to kind of turn your back on them is something that really shouldn't be done. But it's something the FCC said needs to be done. And they said that things definitely aren't going the FCC's way this week. A federal appeals court has reversed the FCC's attempt to cut broadband subsidies in tribal lands, citing both a lack of supporting evidence as well as a lack of considerations when making the decision. That's right, the court said, you have no evidence and you really didn't think this one through. No. The regulators didn't show how pulling the $25 lifeline discount would lead to carriers filling the void like it claimed, according to the ruling. And I guess that was the thing, was that when Native Americans on their lands had this $25 government-supported internet connection, they said that places such as, companies like let's say Charter or Verizon or Time Warner, like whoever runs cables out to these locations, they said, why should we bother running internet out to these tribal lands if the government's just going to subsidize and undercut us the entire way, and we'll never make any money off of it, we'll never profit off of it, we will never recoup our cost off of actually doing it. And they said, as long as this lifeline stays in place, we have no intention of servicing these communities. And that was the FCC's argument, saying that as long as this subsidy exists, no other company is going to come in and service these and do it better. The problem is that these communities just aren't all that profitable. They're not meant to be a profit. Native American tribal lands are not really meant to be like, let's say the suburbs of Chicago. tribal land. They're just not going to be the next data center of America. They're just not going to, demand as much necessity as it would be to actually implement the the hardware there or the network there. Now, they said that the notice didn't include important information that would influence the decision, such as a note that the change wouldn't affect towns with fewer than 10,000 people. There's a possibility that the FCC can appeal this ruling. If it doesn't challenge the decision or runs out of appeals, it will have to create rules that pass muster. Let's see. So I think we're gonna kind of stop there because it kind of gets into the new the shifting dynamic in Washington, policymakers and things like that. But again, it's just the FCC trying to pull subsidies from a very vulnerable population. That would be, in a lot of communities, what is known as a jerk. So, yep. And now, speaking of jerks, and speaking of online internet, we have good news. Hey, how often do we have good news? Microsoft, you know them. They make a lot of computers. They make the operating system. But Microsoft, they have a survey. And turns out, this is coming to us from Engadget, Mr. John Fingus. Microsoft sees a tiny improvement in the cesspool we call the internet. That's right. People are more civil, and that is according to a Microsoft's own study. So despite all the talk of harassment, bullying, and bitter political debates, the internet has become slightly more civil. And again, this is according to Microsoft. Its digital civility index fell by 2 points to 66% in 2018, suggesting that people weren't at each other's throats quite as often had they been in the past. Exposure to online risks fell by 5 points to 63%. Unwanted contacts, such as harassment, was still the worst of all, but it was still less of a threat than it was before, with just 40% of respondents dealing with rudeness versus 44% a year before. And while there were more refined manners around the world, Microsoft saw a big improvement in the U.S., Belgium, France, and Germany. That's right. U.S., Belgium, France, and Germany. Good job. You are being more conscious of each other's feelings. It's a good thing. Before you break out the tea and crumpets, though, of course, John Fingus had to rip that away from us. He said that there were some sore points where, for one, the consequences of dealing with uncivility were more prevalent with more people, saying that 3 to 4 points in each category, becoming distrustful, stressed, sleepless, and withdrawn when situations turned sour. People were also less likely to think before replying, treat others with dignity, or stick up for victims. And while civility is better than it had been in previous studies for the 4 countries, it was still slightly higher overall when Microsoft started the index 2 years ago. Now, obviously, let's just finish the article and then we'll talk about it. But on top of this, we point out that Microsoft is judging internet civility by its own criteria. We're sure many people would beg to differ. You only have to wade into the comments on a video or a screeching political debate on a social network to know that civil might be a relative term here. The data does offer a glimmer of hope, but it could be a long, long while before the internet sheds its reputation as a dumpster fire. Very well put. And there you go. And I think the point here is that Microsoft has a metric that they're trying to stick to. And when it comes to quantifying change on the internet or something new like this, you run into a situation where no one's going to completely agree on your metric. No one's going to completely agree on your methodology for running your experiment. But if you come up with something that you believe is comprehensive and is actually indicative of something, then all you need to do is stick with the metric. And if you're not measuring at least what you think you're measuring, if you have good data, you keep things consistent over a number of years, and you keep measuring, you're going to measure something. And potentially you could be measuring, of course, civility on the internet, which, like the article pointed out to begin with, is actually doing better. We're actually being better people on the internet. So definitely a good thing. So some of the stories that we didn't get to, and hey, we'll include a link to a few of these in the show notes as well if you're so interested. Some of these include Google Home. You know them. They now have the ability to translate a conversation on the fly. So if you're speaking English and you need to speak to someone scared me. So if you're speaking English and you need to speak to someone in Spanish, then the Google Home can actually translate in real time and speak Spanish for you, or vice versa. Some other ones include Waymo. Actually is going to be working with Renault Nissan here on self-driving cars. And let's see, T-Mobile doing more work. Yeah, just kind of looking through. I think that's... and Chrome will also tell you when a password has been compromised in a hack. So very, very cool technology there. Everyone, we're flat out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Computer America Show. It's been a lot of fun, and be sure to tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Gamer Tuesday will be on Thursday. Mark your calendars, make a note. Corey Gallagher. Anyways, tomorrow, Mike Cermak, open mic, and everyone, catch you then. Bye-bye.